Several travel plans this summer have gone down in a tailspin after the horrific terror attack in Pahalgam that claimed innocent Indian lives. Then, followed by India's precision military response through Operation Sindoor, emotions have been running high, and that fury is spilling into flight bookings and holiday plans. Turkey and Azerbaijan, these are two nations that have openly backed Pakistan in the wake of the attack. Now they're facing a cold shoulder from Indian travelers. Major platforms like Ease My Trip and Ixigo and Cox & Kings, all of them have suspended packages to these destinations. Some have even ended their partnerships with airlines like Turkish Airlines. Only last year, Indian tourists have spent more than 4,000 crore rupees in these two countries. And that is certainly not small change. It is about economic engagement. But with both Ankara and Baku issuing the kind of statements they have that have struck a nerve in India, travel choices of many are reflecting our national sentiment right now. Joining us tonight to help us understand the implications are former diplomat and strategic affairs expert Veena Sikri. And joining her is someone who's navigated more travel turbulence than a Boeing cockpit. Ashwini Kakkar is also with us, former chairman of Mercury Travel. He knows where not to go when tensions soar. Thank you both for joining us tonight. Ambassador Sikri, let me ask you, when Indian tour operators suspend travel to countries like Turkey and Azerbaijan, like we're seeing right now, what is the kind of diplomatic messaging that is going out beyond the tourism sector, really?
Well, I think it's quite remarkable because this time, compared to many previous occasions, the tour operators who are suspending these programs, I think they're reflecting the views of the people because the travelers themselves don't want to go and they're very angry. So there's a complete feeling across India that we are not going to tolerate terror and we are not going to support any country that tolerates terror. So I think this completely unequivocal position of the people of India against terrorism is something that is good, that is very significant in India's fight against terror, because this is making itself felt at the red lines, at the pocketbooks of the tour operators in Istanbul, the tour operators in Baku and Azerbaijan and so on. And it's telling the world that the people of India are strong. Not only can they take on Pakistan and destroy their air bases, but they can also express themselves by not visiting countries that support the kind of terrorism that is emanating from Pakistan. This is only this kind of messaging that will make the world feel that India is unequivocal about terror and will make them sit up and put pressure on Pakistan to end their support for terrorist groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed. We already know that on 7th of May, their headquarters of these terrorist groups in across Pakistan were destroyed, whether in Murid-K or Bahawalpur or anywhere else. So I think, this action by the Indian government, unprecedented, to destroy all these headquarters and training grounds, has got tremendous support from the people. And now the people are saying, this is our turn now. We will not visit the countries who support such terror groups. And I think that we must continue such kind of, putting together the views of the people and the government acting as one and telling the world that listen to us or else.
Listen to us or else. That's the strong messaging that's going out. Veena Sikri is saying that. Ashwini Kakkar, do you agree? You've seen many fads and fears that shape travel trends. How do you see this right now? What's the kind of political boycott that we are seeing by Indian travel companies against Azerbaijan, against Turkey? What's the precedent here?
So, Vikram, let me start by saying that India has always been a pacifist nation, a peace-loving country, but this kind of terrorist attack on unarmed civilians is not acceptable to any country, and certainly not to India as well. And I want to remind the viewers that in 2023, when Turkey suffered a huge earthquake, India was right there besides them to help. We sent lots of our people, we sent a lot of goods and equipment and everything to help them with their unforeseen disaster. And even today, I feel that the common man in Turkey or Azerbaijan probably is not even aware of what policies the country is following. And that is really sad because, we want them to change their attitude towards India. And in this kind of situation, obviously, a lot of the companies like Ease My Trip, Cox & Kings, Pick Your Trail, Go Home Stays, a lot of the companies have instituted a lot of measures of different kinds. Somebody has paused, somebody has offered free cancellations, somebody has withdrawn the packages, somebody has issued caution advisories, and somebody has said, okay, we won't feature the airline anymore, and so on and so forth. Now, clearly, this is going to cause some effect in those receiving countries. For example, in Turkey, last year we had sent 3.3 lakh tourists. I mean, that's a huge number. And in Azerbaijan, we had sent 2.4 lakh tourists. And, and the growth numbers in both these economies for Indian tourists were rising dramatically. In Turkey, for example, the growth rate was almost 100% over the previous year. And in Azerbaijan, the number was also about 35% or the other way around. So, I have to say that this is in effect going to cause greater impact than was caused in Maldives. If you remember in 2023, when India decided that, okay, look, we are not going to send as many tourists as we were to Maldives, and the people took this upon themselves. Maldives, which had India as the number one provider of tourists to them, the number fell from number one to number 6. So, a lot of this is going to have a similar kind of effect
Yes.
in the months and year going forward.
So how hard does it really hit, Ambassador, when you hear Ashwini Kakkar talk about the kind of impact when Indian tourists stop traveling to a certain country because of a strong stance taken by the political leadership, and the country buys into it and decides to support, in this case, the Indian Army? How do you think it really impacts countries where tourist footfalls from the Indian side have been huge, and that has been growing in numbers? And we just mentioned how much Azerbaijan and Turkey have been drawing in. How much does it impact them that will have a real impact on the kind of tourism economy that they rely on?
Oh, yes. I think given the figures that Mr. Kakkar has quoted, I think it's going to have a strong impact. And I think it's very significant that this time we have an all-of-country approach, It's not just the government, because the government has shown, the Ministry of External Affairs, the Ministry of Defense, the Prime Minister's leadership, they have shown that we are capable of taking on the Pakistanis. We have shown on May 7th and on May 10th, and Pakistan is now on its knees. They went running to America to seek a cessation of firing because they just couldn't take it anymore. We know that they have very little ammunition left. We know that there are fuel shortages and all that. But this is at a government level. But if this is backed up by the people's level, then the messaging is very, very strong. And this time we've seen in India that all the political parties, all the communities, all the religions, everybody is standing, shoulder to shoulder with the government and saying that we support you in what you do, and we are going to support this across the world. So I think this all-of-country approach, all-of-people approach, all-of-government approach, this has been very significant and responsible for the long-term success in terms of the deep impact of the success that India has had in taking on Pakistan terror groups, in taking on Pakistan Air Force bases, in crippling their military might. And I think that the fact that we are not even calling it a ceasefire, we're saying it is not a Yudh Viram, it is हमने स्थगित किया है. Our Prime Minister's message to the nation yesterday was very clear. His visit to Adhampur base in Punjab was very clear when he met the airmen and saw the tremendous amount of josh that all the people of the defense forces, particularly the Air Force, have among themselves. So I think that this view, when the airmen, when the soldiers, when the Navy personnel, they see that all the countries with them, and they're willing to even boycott countries who support Pakistan. This gives a tremendous strength, a boost, a morale boosting strength to the defense forces and makes them perform even better. So I think this kind of messaging is very important. It should continue. We have to tell the world that today there is no issue of Jammu and Kashmir left to discuss except the bringing back of POJK. After the August 5th, 2019 abrogation of Article 370 and the removal of this article, earlier it was a temporary status, now it's gone altogether. It is very clear that there is no issue of Jammu and Kashmir to discuss anywhere in the world. Jammu and Kashmir, the entire state, is an integral part of India and will remain so. And all we are interested in now is getting back Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir.
Right.
And if Pakistan, if at any time ever there are talks with Pakistan. Our Prime Minister has made it clear this will be on number one, ending terror, and number two, bringing back to India POJK. So this messaging must remain. And we have seen even in the UN Security Council this time, when the resolution was adopted after the Pahalgam bestial attacks on innocent tourists, the word disputed was not used, when they refer to Jammu and Kashmir.
Yes.
So it's after a long time that we have had this success in the Security Council, despite the fact that Pakistan is presently a non-permanent member of the Security Council. So, we have been able to have international successes in diplomacy. We have to be able to have defense successes in taking on Pakistan and
a new red line.
their Air Force bases and in going ahead.
And a new red line on terror coming through from the Adampur airbase even today. Even the kind of address to the nation that we heard the Prime Minister yesterday itself, that seemed very strong, that this new red line on terror has now been established, that there will be Gola for Goli. But beyond the messaging and this unified messaging that's going across, Mr. Kakkar, you tell us in terms of attitude, when you're talking about countries like Turkey and Azerbaijan, do you foresee a remarkable shift? Because as far as travel destinations go, and the numbers are telling as well, India has favored these countries as travel destinations. But what about the people over there? What about the attitude towards Indian travelers to these countries? Is there likely to be a remarkable shift? What has it been?
So, first let's talk about the attitude of our own people. The first thought that crosses people's minds is that it was our tourists who were terrorized by this whole event, and the tourists who lost their lives, people who had gone to Kashmir for a holiday and so on and so forth. So, we are going to respond back as tourists as well. And safety and security of tourists is the number one criterion for any tourist anywhere in the world.
Of course.
And in this case, what we are starting to see is 50%, around 50% cancellation of bookings. And we are also seeing, a huge drop in new bookings going to either Turkey or to Azerbaijan. And I think what we also need to realize is that it's not only going to be tourism that's going to be affected. I think overall trade is also going to be affected. I think our trade with Azerbaijan, which used to be just $50 million about 2 decades back, is now $1.5 billion. And with Turkey, the trade is almost $14 billion. That will also get affected because of this sentiment felt by the people of India. And, I think realizing this, the Turkish Tourism Ministry has already issued some conciliatory statements.
Right.
And they are saying that the vast majority of people in Turkey are not even aware of this conflict, and they are not taking any sides in this conflict. And we are very happy to welcome Indian tourists. And please make sure that you understand that, the people of Turkey will be extremely welcoming for the tourists from India and so on. So they are making these conciliatory statements now, realizing that this is going to have a serious impact. And, the whole attitude of the not only the people of India, but also the travel and tourism community. There are some chapters of the Travel Agents Association of India who have not only put out these things, requesting people not to go towards Turkey and Azerbaijan, but equally offering assistance and support through a response team, which will support all the states that were affected and all the people who were affected for all their travels, whether they are going home from those places or they are going back to their original places from where they were displaced. I think those response teams are being very helpful to ensure that, the will of the people is being implemented as far as travel and tourism goes.
So there is a unified stance coming through from the industry as well in terms of, trying to tell tourists that perhaps you don't need to go to a Turkey or an Azerbaijan. There are various other options that are available. But take a moment, Ambassador Sikri, to tell us about the troubled relationship that India has had with Turkey and the OIC. When you're talking about a particular country, and we mentioned Maldives just a while ago as well, and the kind of impact that this particular political implication that played out on tourism over there as well. But now when you're talking about a Turkey, for example, how much deeper does it run? This kind of impact?
It's okay for the travel trade in Turkey to put out, advisory saying, please come, and the people don't know. But we do know that President Erdogan is one of the biggest supporters of the Pakistan regime. And we do know that immediately after the terrorist attack on the innocent tourists in Pahalgam, when Pakistan realized that there's going to be a strong response from India, Turkey sent 6 plane loads of drones, and all these drones that have been coming across in swarms from Pakistan. And of course, our, air defense has been able to, bring down almost all of them. But we do know that President Erdogan immediately stepped in and sent these 6 plane loads of defense equipment. Later on, they tried to brush it off. No, this was nothing. It was only a refueling halt and stuff like that. But we know that was all wrong. And we do know that there were definitely 6 plane loads of, highly state-of-the-art drones and other equipment sent by Turkey to help Pakistan and to use these against India. These were sent specifically to be used against India to kill Indian people. So how can we excuse Turkey? How can we forgive them? How can we forgive President Erdogan for the kind of position that he's taking? And we do know that President Erdogan and combining with the leadership in Pakistan and Malaysia have been wanting to recreate the Khalifa, the Caliphate, and they want to recreate the Ottoman Empire and so on and so on. They have these all grandiose ideas based on religion and not taking into account the need to live peacefully with people of all religions and to live peacefully, in a secular atmosphere. And this is not what they do. In Azerbaijan, we have the same problem, that they just don't understand, and they have been taking this position, which is a very, very uncomfortable and unacceptable position for us. So I think that it is very important that these countries feel the anger of the people. It is very important. So I'm very glad that just like happened in the case of Maldives, in the case of Turkey and Azerbaijan also, they feel the anger of the people, and that it cannot be business as usual if you support a terrorist government, if you support a government like Pakistan, which is a state sponsor of terrorism. And in fact, now we have to take our campaign much further and much stronger, take it to all countries of the world and tell them that, look, please stop talking about J&K, because J&K is now an integral part of India. If you want to talk about it, talk about the return of POJK. And we will tell this to everybody, including China, because they are occupying Shakstam Valley, and that has been given to them by Pakistan. So we must talk about getting that back as well. So all these things we must take up. All these many decades, many times when I was, in the diplomatic service, Pakistan would go on and on campaigning on Jammu and Kashmir, but we would never reply. We would say, no, let's keep quiet.
And that has changed today. Very remarkably, that has changed today. The stance that India is taking, a very strong messaging going out to Pakistan directly without, beating around the bush. Just listen in to what we got from the Prime Minister from the Adhampur base, very categorical, that India stands on the side of peace, but hitting civilian infrastructure has never been part of India's strategy. Just listen in to what he said.
हमारा लक्ष्य पाकिस्तान के अंदर टेरर हेडक्वार्टर्स को हिट करने का था, आतंकियों को हिट करने का था। लेकिन पाकिस्तान ने अपने यात्री विमानों को सामने करके जो साजिश की रची, मैं कल्पना कर सकता हूं वो पल कितना कठिन होगा जब सिविलियन एयरक्राफ्ट दिख रहा है। और मुझे गर्व है, आपने बहुत सावधानी से, बहुत सतर्कता से सिविलियन एयरक्राफ्ट को नुकसान किए बिना कमाल करके दिखाया, उसका जवाब दे दिया आपने।
So kind of precision strikes, that's an important piece militarily. But what's the diplomatic message that's going out beyond even a Pakistan, Mr. Khakkar? Because India is taking this strong stance against terror. So anyone, any country that is seen backing terror also becomes a part of what India doesn't approve of and is going to take this strong stance. So it will hit economically as well. Do you think that's coming through in what the Prime Minister is saying?
I think this message is reverberating across the globe now. I think people are starting to understand that, terror has no place in the world. In any country of the world, I think, this kind of behavior, this kind of unruly, terrorism is not being appreciated at all, and people are willing to stand up and fight against it. Now, clearly, I mean, there are many ways of dealing with that. And like I said, trade is one way, tourism is yet another way. But just to come back to the tourism thing, because a lot of the people, a lot of the viewers who cancel their trips or who, are now not booking in the direction of Turkey and Azerbaijan, they are asking us, what should we do? So, what they should do is, in the first instance, look at friendly countries, because safety and security is very important. Look at friendly countries, especially those friendly countries which are offering to Indians visa-free travel. Now, there are about 35 countries which are issuing visa-free travel notices for India. So I think we should look at those countries and, places like Vietnam, Cambodia. I mean, a lot of those. I mean, Angkor Wat is, has some resonance with Indians. There's a lot of good resonance with all of us. And of course, if people are looking at places which are on that European sector and things like that, Greece is an ancient civilization quite like ours. And, it's a place where we can all look at, for example, Spain, France. A lot of these countries are very accommodative and very willing to accept Indians. Of course, there are some countries where the issue is of a visa, for example, a Schengen visa for Europe, or direct flights. India had been so cooperative. We had allowed Turkish Airlines direct flights, and we had got our own airlines to fly to Turkey, direct. Similarly, direct flights to Azerbaijan. We were so good to them.
That's right.
But now I think, the time has come for us to pull back and to look at other destinations instead of looking at Azerbaijan, looking at Turkey alone, and trying to, diversify our own tourist portfolio as far as the rest of the world is concerned, towards friendlier countries.
It's an opportunity
Countries
for
which
India
offer
as
us
well.
visa-free travel.
Yes, Mr. Kakkar, there is an opportunity for India as well to develop its own tourism. Already we have great getaways for this summer and beyond. But of course, from geopolitics to global getaways, this really proves that your passport can no longer afford to be politically naive. Turkey and Azerbaijan, they may offer these breathtaking landscapes, historical marvels, but for many Indian travelers, national interest now takes priority over natural beauty. And as our panelists are highlighting, travel is no longer just about taking a break, it's about taking a stand, and that messaging is coming out loud and clear. Ambassador Sikri and Mr. Kakkar, thank you for navigating us through this tricky flight path with us right now, but thanks very much for lending your insights. We will now turn to another important bit that we are looking at, which is about